Hey guys, it's the English Shooting weekly live stream once again, and unfortunately for the second week running it is just myself, no Connors or the voice of God, Alex. So Alex has been away with family the last week, although he's just returned. He wanted to sort of settle back in to the home, and Connors, well, I think he just wanted to get dinner more than be on the stream, so you're stuck with me, but hopefully that's not too much of an issue. It's been a busy week. There's lots to talk about, and as the title would suggest, we are going to be heavily focusing on the decision from BASC to remove its legal expenses insurance. Now, I won't take the whole stream to talk about that. We do have other points as well, some big points as well to talk about. But I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're managing to get out shooting with the restrictions getting lower and lower. I've certainly been taking advantage of them myself, being able to go to the pub for one, and also having my hair cut for the first time in probably about 3 or 4 months, which was quite refreshing. But as always, standard format. Whilst I do have sort of a set agenda and topics that I want to discuss, this is for you guys to ask any questions that you want to ask, and bring up any topics that you guys want to talk about. So at any point, use the comment section below, or to the side, or depending on however you're watching it, just plug it in there. I'll try and get through everything that I can. A big thank you to Xbox One Geeks for the donation. Of course, you can support the channel as well through the super chats, I believe YouTube call it. There is also a Patreon as well if you're feeling generous. But otherwise, a like and a share and getting involved is really the best reward for the channel, for myself, for doing that. So again, get those questions in, and we'll kick off the live stream. Arizona Awesome Austin, thanks for joining the stream and getting involved. Do you have any issues getting 2.2? So I guess you mean 2.2 ammunition. In the UK, we don't really have a huge issue. Even I remember the last sort of shortage, shall we call it, was around Sandy Hook, and we had fairly good supply. One of the silver linings of our restrictions on buying ammunition here is that we can't go out and panic buy. We can't go out and bulk buy. We are limited to the quantity that we can go out and purchase and possess. So that limits people going out and just stocking up their cupboards. So we didn't really see any real shortage for a good few months after the main shortage in America hit. And of course, having companies like Ely Ammunition, who are of course a specialist in 2.2 ammunition, they are based here in the UK, and again, supplies of their ammunition didn't seem to falter through any of the previous shortages. But I know that America is having another shortage at the moment, with sort of all the riots that have been going on, with COVID going on. People are just stockpiling. We just don't seem to have that sort of level of panic buying, because our laws sort of prevent it. So yeah, plenty of 2.2. Bluefield Sports, plenty of 2.2. We've got CCI Mini Mag Standard, CCI Stinger, and I think even MagTech as well. That's sort of, we don't recommend really MagTech unless you are just purely intending to go out and plink. But yeah, well stocked at the moment with 2.2. And I have said to Alex, and a lot of people have sort of brought this to my attention, that there is going to be another shortage. So I've said to him, just make sure you've got more than enough for the time being. Daniel Smerald, shall we get into the BASC immediately, or give it a minute? Well, I guess I've already sort of answered that by talking about other questions. And V Pope, actually, a new development that has sort of been, I guess, leaked in a way from the 50 Cal Association, is that it looks like there's going to be an offensive weapons bill 2.0. No information about this at the moment. I've only just found out about it myself. So yeah, that's going to be a topic obviously tied in. It's like things are sort of making sense more and more by the day. But let's get straight into the Carl M. Put the hat back on. Oh, it's so rude. Well, look, I do have it here, so I'll put it on. If that's how you want to play it, there we go. Does that appease your eyes even better? The only reason I've been so devout in wearing it the past few months is because my heads look like a thatched roof. Unfortunately, whilst I don't have much on top anymore, it certainly grows out the side, so I needed something to contain it. But there you go. You're going to try and bully me on my own stream. I'll do as I'm told, I suppose. Mochaccino, we're all going to die. Well, with an attitude like that, well, you know, we may just do. But anyway, the big news, of course, the title of the stream is about BASC, and for me, this has sort of snowballed over the past few days. It's actually taken up a considerable amount of sort of time and effort. I didn't really think it was gonna sort of blow up like it has. So for those of you that have been living under a rock, BASC is the largest organisation here in the UK for shooting sports and hunting and wildfowling. Its roots did start within the sort of wildfowling area, but it's grown to be, I would say that they champion themselves as really the only, or the largest organisation that covers all areas of shooting and firearms ownership. I think it's fair to say that they are very hunting and game specific, but they do help with sport shooters. They help with all aspects of shooting here in the UK. And the reason that it was so important for me to make the previous video about this is, for as long as I can remember, I think pretty much as soon as I started up the channel, I was already a BASC member. I think I became a BASC member even before I got my licenses, because so many people said you need to have them on your side. You need to have that protection that BASC offer. So for for as long as I can remember, I've been championing BASC. I've been pleading with people to go and get a membership of an organisation like this, and I've been pushing forward BASC. Thank you very much, Kyle. Sorry you're late, but not sorry that you've been bullying me. But very much appreciated. Thank you very much. So for years and years, pretty much since I started the channel, I've been saying to people, make sure you have legal expense insurance. And for me, the best people that provide this is BASC. Now, I made that video to basically inform anyone that had taken my advice to get BASC membership, to make you guys aware that they're no longer providing the legal expenses insurance that I said you all need to have, and therefore if you joined BASC under my recommendation, I didn't want anybody having a nasty surprise down the line thinking that they were protected and they were not. Connor Butters, I'm sorry about your hairline. Is this how it's going to be? Seriously, guys. It's just not nice, all right? I work hard. I don't need this sort of abuse. I don't care. I really don't care. I've been called far worse. And at the end of the day, I am going bald. I can't hide it, you know. If one day I end up with a hair transplant, it's going to be obvious. So what's the point? Embrace the bald, you know. Anyway, back onto topic. So I made this video basically clarifying that they had stopped it, and again, something that I do. Well, I'll get into the clarifications in a little bit. So I put this video out and received a F in chat for Callum's hair. Oh my god! I will just ban you, Arius. I would just. Oh god! No, stop it. Anyway, so what was I saying? You're throwing me off. I'm gonna turn chat off in a minute, guys. Like, so yeah. Basically, the director for communications and public affairs ended up getting in contact with me and wanted to have a bit of a chat, and we ended up having a 45-minute Zoom call, and Alex Morton as well, who I work very closely with Bluefield Sports and Gumroom TV, and he owns Bluefield Sports, and basically where I'm based. So he got in contact and we had a bit of a chat. Now, needless to say, BASC weren't particularly happy about the video that I put out. I can't understand why, but there were a few bits that he felt it was important for me to clarify. Now, I want to make it perfectly clear. I don't know if anybody, a representative from BASC, is watching this, or whether Christopher Graffius, who is the Director of Communications and Public Affairs, is watching this. I'm not beholden to anyone. You know, I do things as I see fit. So I'm not I'm not clarifying anything necessarily for their benefit. I'm clarifying it because I think it's maybe the right thing to do. So one of the things that he brought up was the distinction between legal expenses insurance and public liability insurance. Now, this is where things during the call started to become a little bit concerning, because he was of the standpoint that I hadn't made it clear enough. And if you go and watch the video, I think it's at the 2-minute 45-second mark, I give a very distinctive definition between the two, and that BASC are still giving public liability insurance. But he looks up and says, well, not many people are going to make it to 2 minutes 45 seconds. It's like, well, actually, rather than assuming, why don't you ask me first? So actually looking at the analytics, 60% of people make it to that point, which I informed him of. However, he would like me to clarify it, even though I think I've already done that in the video. So I just want to clarify that in terms of the insurance that BASC have dropped, it is not the public liability. It's purely the legal expenses insurance. And the legal expenses insurance is incredibly important if you get into any difficulties like revocations or refusals. So BASC isn't covering you for that anymore. Or are they? So obviously a few days after this announcement of dropping the legal expenses insurance, BASC announced that there is now this 7-figure fighting fund. And coincidentally, the money that they have saved from dropping the legal expense insurance is around £1 million. I mean, you don't need to be that good at maths to sort of see a potential connection. And this is where I'm a little bit confused, because during the discussion on Zoom with Christopher, he states, well, didn't you think that they were connected? And I said, absolutely, I think they're connected. However, he invited me then to, after we'd had this call, he invited me to send him various points to comment on, so that, you know, he wanted to make sure that they have supplied all of the answers and that I'm not talking on points that are ambiguous. Yeah, you know I struggle with words. So he wanted everything to be crystal clear, but actually he's thrown a lot more mud into the mix, because on this call he gave the impression that they were very much connected. And now he's come to me and said that no, they're not. There is actually no connection at all between this legal fighting fund, and there's no connection between the fighting fund and dropping this insurance, despite the money being pretty much similar. And he's also clarified that the membership money that members pay never went towards the legal expenses insurance anyway, and that also the legal fighting this fighting fund that they've created also isn't being paid out of the membership subs. But for me, it's semantics. Regardless of how many different funds or accounts that you have in BASC, if you save £1 million somewhere, it gives you £1 million to spend somewhere else. And again, there seems to be this just disjointed information of very much hinting that they were connected on the Zoom call, but then in writing saying that they absolutely categorically aren't connected. But the issue that I have with this fighting fund is that whilst I'm sure it will be put to good use, it is solely under the opinion of BASC where this money is spent. So they want to make it sound like it gives them more freedom, it gives them more choice and flexibility, and they are able to fight the same things, but but it's more economically viable because they're not losing so much money on the insurance with their premiums and so on and so forth. But the way I see it is that the insurance that every member previously had was fair and impartial. It was taken care of by a separate company. And having been through the process myself, unfortunately, it is done on a merit system. There is quite a structured system in place for this company, for the insurance company, to decide whether or not you have a 51% chance of winning or higher. And as long as you have as long as they deem you have a 51% or higher chance of winning, they will fund you. But now this fighting fund is purely at the discretion of BASC. They can spend it on what they deem fit. So as a predominant sports shooter, having lost my licenses for, you know, a variety of different issues, the main point as it transpired in the appeal was my opinions online about self-defense with guns. Does BASC deem that a worthy enough cause to put money into fighting? Or are they going to become even more game and hunting centric? Now, something that I also do want to get in there, because I've been talking with, Connors, I've already told everyone that I've been to the pub and got my hair cut. No one cares. So Alex is a predominant game shooter. He's a predominant hunter. Yeah, he runs a 1,000-acre estate, which is a game estate where pheasants and partridge are shot. There's deer stalking done on the estate, and all variety of vermin shooting as well, and crop protection. Now, from his standpoint, and again, it's not an area that I'm hugely knowledgeable about, he is very adamant that BASC are doing an incredible job in protecting that side of things. And there are a lot of threats going on at the moment in terms of game birds being released, so on and so forth. The lead ban, but of course we know how BASC handled that. And he just wanted me to put forward that as somebody that's very, very knowledgeable and experienced in that side of shooting, that actually he feels BASC is doing a very good job. However, as a predominant sports shooter, I don't think BASC are. And the removal of this very fair, very structured legal expenses cover, and this transition, as it seems, to go on to this fighting fund, I believe that sports shooters will suffer as a result. I believe that the causes that BASC will want to put that fighting fund into will be significantly weighted towards game shooting and hunting, which is great if you're a game shooter or a hunter. But my biggest problem as a predominant sports shooter is that I don't feel that BASC have my interests, truly at the forefront of the organisation, and that it is going to become even more of a hunting and even more of a game shooting. And personally, I would like BASC to sort of admit that. I would like them to sort of look up and say we aren't predominantly focused on sports shooting. Now, something that Christopher was actually quite annoyed about is that in the previous video, I stated that BASC did nothing for the 50 cal ban. Now, of course, they tried to ban 50 cals. This was unsuccessful. And my understanding is that this was predominantly down to the 50 cal society, and that the 50 cal society felt let down by BASC and the other big organisations. Now, I've reached out to the 50 cal society, and they don't seem... Well, I haven't had a response yet, so I haven't been able to clarify this. But Christopher Graffius was actually the person from BASC that went and sat in front of the consultation. So he felt fairly offended by my statement that they did nothing, because he certainly did something. So I would like to change my statement on that, which is I still don't feel BASC did enough to prevent the 50 cal ban, even though it was eventually unsuccessful, or the ban was unsuccessful. But I certainly think that they did nothing towards Mars and lever release. And this is another thing that Christopher said on the Zoom call that I found very interesting. And fairly passionately, he said, we did do something about the 50 cal, and it had nothing to do with hunting. It had nothing to do with game shooting or hunting, which we're so often accused of, leaning towards. This was purely for the sports shooting side of things. We did this purely off of our own back for the sports shooters, because nobody uses 50 cal for hunting. So there we go. You can't say that we don't do anything for the sports shooting side. However, it's been brought to my attention that I believe this is a quote directly from Christopher Graffius. So whilst he wants to sit in front of me and state that it was nothing to do with hunting, it was purely a move to help protect sports shooting, This is what I believe to be a quote from him back around the 50 cal ban. But more important than that, those shooters who may never wish to own a 50 cal should be alive to the dangers of a prohibition that would allow an unsympathetic government to reduce the energy limit further to ban smaller caliber rifles used for deer stalking and pest control. So I feel quite offended at this because I feel that I've been completely lied to. He wants to challenge me at the accusation that I made of BASC doing nothing for 50 cal and wants to quite passionately defend that they did this purely for sport shooting when he is on record saying that they have done this purely because it could trickle down eventually to hunting. And then you have to ask the question that if they did this purely for 50 cals for the benefit of sport shooters, why was nothing done? And again, he didn't actually challenge that BASC didn't do anything for Mars and lever release. So why didn't BASC do anything for Mars and lever release? Because it has absolutely nothing to do with hunting or stalking or any countryside pursuit. So I think just in that, first of all, I feel that I'm being misled, and I feel that once again, BASC is quite obviously leaning towards the hunting and stalking and game shooting side. And something else that I found quite belittling is Christopher throughout wanted to talk about unity. He wanted to talk about uniting shooting sports, and we're stronger together, and we need to stop having these divisions, which I completely agree. But something that I found completely hilarious is that 30 seconds, a minute after stating that, we start talking about what my issues were with the drop of insurance expenses. To which he and I said, for me, why was no email sent out? Why were no emails sent out, and why wasn't there more done on social media? And after this talk about unified and treating all shooters as one, he informed me that BASC have a very, very divisive method of communication when it comes to emails, and that they actually specifically release emails to different subsets of shooters. So they will send a bunch of emails to the deer stalkers. They will send a bunch of emails to the wildfowlers. They will send a bunch of emails to the sport shooters. So in their own communication, they are dividing. They are dividing the shooting community with their own communication through emails. And when I raised the point of why weren't, for me, such a significant change to the membership policy in terms of the legal expenses insurance, why didn't they use emails, which he admitted covers 80% of the membership? And his response to that was, well, under FCA regulation, they are required to inform all members. And the only way that they can inform all members are through the magazine, which is okay, fair enough. That box is ticked. You have fulfilled your obligation to the FCC that you have contacted all members. But still, why wasn't there any push through email or push through social media to notify the membership more? And when I asked him this specifically as a specific point in an email after the Zoom call, he just went on again about the magazine. He said that, again, we wanted to contact all BASC members. And that wasn't my question. My question was, why wasn't there more effort to inform the 80% of members that are on email and the approximately 31% of members that are on social media? And I'll tell you why I think it's so important for them to make better use of email and better use of social media for such an important change like this to the membership. Because this is what happens to my BASC magazines. Unopened. Here's another BASC magazine. Unopened. And I can't even tell you which organisation send me these magazines, but unopened. 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 Magazines are, in my opinion, an outdated, expensive, costly, and incredibly slow method of communication to the membership. Especially when you have 80% of your members on email, and especially when you have approximately 31% of them on social media. To me, magazines are as outdated as checkbooks. These are my company checkbooks. I've never needed to use them. Unopened. Unopened. And all of the other magazines, you know, I have to say that, you know, in fairness, this is probably the one magazine that I was probably bored enough to open and have a look through. I couldn't tell you what it had inside it. I can't say I received any particular joy in reading it. Social media and email, more importantly, are free methods of communication. So whilst they are obliged to inform all of their members through the magazine, you have to ask the question why they elected not to use email and why they elected to not to use social media, which certainly for me and certainly people of my generation is a far more effective way of communicating. And for me, I feel that this was purposely done to sweep it under the rug, to keep it quiet, to not draw attention to it, and for members to basically be left out of the loop. And I think it's confirmed in the fact that from what I can see online, from comments on the video that was made, on the posts that were shared, it seems that far more members were made aware of this change to the membership from my video as opposed to the magazine. And to me, that's absolutely no surprise whatsoever, because somewhere in one of these magazines I haven't opened is a paragraph probably about that big. Easy to miss. So you might have fulfilled your FCA obligation, but I still don't think that enough effort was made by the organisation to inform them. And this is what BASC do time and time again, and are criticised of time and time again, is a lack of transparency and a lack of communication. And bearing in mind, this was the director of communication that I was talking to. And for me, the most worrying point during this Zoom call was that when we were talking about what more BASC could have done for 50 cals, what more BASC could have done for Mars and lever releases, I said to him, publicity. Media and publicity. Make shooters aware of it. Make the membership aware of it. Gather support. Gather people's interest in emailing to their MPs to make this issue bigger than what the Home Office and what neighbours want to make it, so that they can just sweep it under the rug as well, banning more guns. And on my suggestion that BASC could have had done more with media and have done more in the promotion of this potential ban, Christopher, and I quote, said, "Media plays no role in victories within a political world." Just let that sink in. The Director of Communications and Public Affairs for BASC thinks that media plays no role in political victories. I mean, whilst they're maybe not the best examples in the world of good politicians, take or leave what you think of them, Donald Trump made an astounding victory with the use of media and social media. Brexit, the Leave campaign, was won on social media and media. Boris Johnson's main tool and Trump's main tool at the highest level of politics that you can get are using media and social media specifically to great advantage. And you have to be concerned when the Director of Communication and Public Affairs thinks that media has no impact in political victory. And then he went on to say that you have two types of organisations. You have an inward organisation and you have an outward organisation. And BASC have very much declared themselves as an inward organisation, an organisation that wants to focus more on closed doors meetings with handshakes with politicians than they do about wanting to gather public support. And that's fine. Okay, that's their decision. That's what they think works best. But communicate this with your membership. Make your membership aware. And again, I do want to stress that for game shooting, for hunting, for wildfowling, from people that know what they are doing within that sector, that are incredibly experienced, they seem to think that they are doing an incredibly good job. For somebody like me that is all about promoting the sport, getting the sport out there, and certainly more sport shooting and target shooting focused, I believe BASC have absolutely lost their mind. And I think they should make it very, very clear where their sort of focus lies and what they were doing. So I've been talking about it for a while. This is my BASC membership card, and actually, as of the morning of Tuesday, this is now completely irrelevant for me. So really, I don't need it, and personally, I don't need BASC. And I think any sport shooter or any target shooter should seriously consider where the interest of BASC lies and what they are doing. And whilst they have this £1 million fighting fund, you have to ask the question of where this is going to be used. Now, something that does sort of throw this off kilter for me is the news from the 50 Cal Society today that there is basically an offensive weapons bill 2.0. So the 50 Cal Society have come out. I shared this on EnglishShooting, but I will find it so I can read it verbatim. So from the 50 Cal Shooting Association, off we go again. The consultation on the security of firearms is due to be announced within the next 2 weeks. Now, this was something that was touched upon on the previous offensive weapons bill, and that they were going to potentially bring in more restrictions in terms of storage and security for 50 cals. Now, no one knows what this is likely to be, but if they are reopening the can of worms of firearms legislation, what else is going to come into it? Now, a lot of people seem very, very scared about box-fed semi-automatic shotguns, certainly after the interest from Sean O'Neill and the Times and other newspapers. And they're potentially a target. 2.2 semi-automatic, rimfire, rifles. Those are, I think, on a lot of people's mind about being at risk. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to look at amending or changing the mini rifle exemption. I believe that's section 11.4, which allows people to possess up to .23 caliber rifles for the purposes of running a mini rifle range. That's probably going to come under scrutiny. And you also have to ask about air guns. It's been very, very quiet about air guns, and we all thought that once Scotland had introduced licensing, whilst it was grossly ineffective because it was some minute percentage of the estimated amount of air guns in possession were actually registered. But the Scots managed to get, or the Scottish government managed to get licensing passed for air guns. Is that going to be on the agenda? And then you bring into this BASC fighting fund. Well, why have they made this decision now? Do they know something that we don't? Do they know that there is this offensive weapons bill 2.0 coming? Do they know that they're going to be going after 50 cal agains? Do they know that they're going to be going after, say, 2.2 semi-automatic rifles or box-fed semi-automatic shotguns or even air guns? Now, for BASC, I wouldn't think that they would have much of a concern about box-fed semi-automatic shotguns. They're not often used for, say, rough shooting or game shoot, certainly not game shooting, or for say wildfowling. I know there are some people out there that use it, but certainly if their stance is that if further restrictions are imposed on 50 cals, and that could trickle down to calibers that are used for hunting, they're going to be very interested in that. And certainly if they start going after air guns, BASC are going to be very interested in that, because a lot of hunters, a lot of pest controllers, a lot of vermin shooters use air guns. So maybe they know something that we don't. They know a potential big fight is coming with this, you know, I'm going to call it the Offensive Weapons Bill 2.0, you know, leaked from the 50 Cal Society today. And maybe they have switched the money that they were going to, and again, Christopher is adamant, and he's put this sort of in writing, that it wasn't a case of taking, you know, saving the money from the legal expenses insurance and moving it over to this fighting fund. But anyway, they have prepared from whatever fund, from whatever cash flow that they have produced this £1 million fighting fund. And I think that actually makes a lot of sense. If the Offensive Weapons Bill 2.0 is about to hit, they're gearing up for a massive fight. And again, from everything that we've just previously discussed, what are they going to be trying to save? Is it going to be the likes of, you know, similar guns like Mars or lever release? Is it going to be box-fed semi-automatic shotguns if they get in there? Is it going to be 2.2, say, AR-style rifles? Are they going to care much about those, or are they just going to go after the guns that they feel affect hunting, game shooting, wildfowling the most? But yeah, that's a lot. But so I don't know. I've like that. It's just a lot for me to you know. This is stuff that has been going over the last few days, and you know, I do have a second video in the works. It's going to be a lot more coherent than all of that. I haven't even had a chance to look at all of your comments, so I'll go through that on this specific issue. But really, those are the highlights, I think. Oh yes, actually, I think this is utterly hilarious as well. Christopher wanted me to clarify my interests in terms of BASC. Because he wants things to be fair, and for everyone to sort of know what's happened, even though I've made countless videos on this. So to clarify, I've had two main dealings with BASC. There was first the revocation of my my firearms certificate and shotgun certificate, and to be fair, I was very impressed with how it was handled. They gave me a lot of support. There was somebody that was part of the Firearms team at BASC, who I have a hell of a lot of respect for. He really couldn't do he just couldn't do enough for me, basically. It's a guy called Simon Van. I don't know if he still works for BASC, but if you ever have any problems and you need to get hold of someone at BASC, I would highly recommend Simon Van. He was in constant communication. He was reassuring me, telling me what all my options were, and also then pushed forward for me to get the legal cover insurance, because I was deemed to have a 51% or higher chance of winning at the appeal. And of course, you all know that my appeal was unsuccessful. Now, I am fairly critical of, let's say, the legal firm, because it's not BASC that end up representing you. They have a separate legal firm. I wasn't so impressed. I was very impressed with the solicitor and the pre-work, but it all felt very rushed. I didn't speak to my barrister until the morning of my appeal, which I felt opened up the door for him to not fully understand the situation and to fully know where I was coming from. But anyway, that's sort of water under the bridge. But in terms of that main dealing with BASC, I couldn't really fault BASC as a whole. However, 2 years ago, and I have made a video on this, I thought I would be successfully reapplying for my licenses. I was advised by BASC and by my barrister and by my solicitor to wait for 2 years and then to reapply, which I did. And then I ended up having a meeting with the head of Hampshire Firearms, Tony Hill, and it was within that meeting that he said that due to comments from other people on the channel, he deemed that English Shooting was a forum of extremism, and that if I was to keep my licenses, my application in, there would be a high likelihood of the applications being rejected. So I went to BASC. And I went to BASC and said, like, look, help guys, I've basically been given this ultimatum. I either keep my licenses in, I've been told that there's a high likelihood they're going to be rejected, so I'm going to need to go down the appeal route, or I have the option to voluntarily remove my application. And we had already agreed the date of 1st of May 2020, which was obviously just gone. And, you know, what should I do? Should I fight this? Should I, you know, push forward? Where do I stand with this? Are they just sort of chancing their arm and trying to intimidate me and to try and pressure me to not have my licenses for another 2 years? And the guy, I can't remember who it was, but the guy was almost like, well, I don't really know. However, I happen to be at a convention tomorrow, or some sort of meeting, or some sort of you know, show where Tony Hill is going to be there. So I'll have a chat with him, and I'll let you know what I think. And again, he did seem, you know, fairly up for helping and fairly, you know, I think he actually said that it did sound, in fairness, at that point in time, he said that it sounded like they were clutching at straws because nothing had happened over that 2 years, and he couldn't really see any reason why they would be wanting to impose another 2 years on me. So he goes away, and I end up getting, I end up getting a phone call the next day from the same guy saying, I've spoken to Tony Hill, and really it's a 50-50, it's down to you. And it just felt like a complete change of tune from the 2 days previously. And I felt let down. I felt like words had been said behind closed doors between Tony Hill and this representative of BASC. And my feeling is that basically it was like, look, like, let us have this one. Let us, you know, just don't help this guy. And that's why suddenly it was, okay, we feel you have a 50-50 chance, the decision is up to you. And I said, well, but what happens if I go forward? Can I still go for the insurance? Am I going to have a chance of the insurance? What's your sort of feeling? Oh, it's 50-50, up to you. And I felt very, very let down in that dealing. So Christopher Graffius wanted me to declare my interest, and that I may appear disgruntled because of that, and maybe that's why I'm seemingly attacking BASC. But that's something that I personally want to clarify. I'm not attacking BASC. I'm commenting on their decision to remove legal expenses. I'm commenting on what Christopher spoke to me on during that Zoom call. I'm commenting on the email that he subsequently sent me clarifying a number of the issues and concerns that I raised. I've been a BASC member for, I think it's anywhere between like 6 or 8 years, somewhere in that region. And I have sung their praises continuously. I have advocated them. I have recommended them. I have stressed to all of you to get BASC membership, to get the legal cover. I would say that I'm BASC's #1 fan. Apart from the continued decisions, the complete mishandling of the announcement of the lead ban, the complete, in my view, mishandling of the announcement of the insurance, and the complete miscommunication of really what is going on with this fighting fund. And now it seems that there's this Offensive Weapons Bill 2.0 coming out. Again, I think BASC is keeping stuff from their members. And as a sports shooter, I no longer feel that I am represented by BASC. I don't hate BASC. I don't want to attack BASC. But I have my opinions, and I'm going to make them heard. The other thing that I felt quite funny but also quite flattering is that Christopher kept referring to me as a journalist. I'm not a journalist by any way, shape or form. I'm a commentator. I see what I see, and I comment on what I believe, and I comment on what opinions that I have. And if people agree with that, if people see synergies in their own views with what I'm saying, then fantastic, then great. Let's have a chat about it, let's talk about it, you know, whatever. But I think actually Christopher viewing me as a journalist actually is quite worrying that they don't, well, Christopher or BASC doesn't understand social media, that they don't understand that I'm not a journalist. I'm not bound by the same journalistic integrities, if there is such a thing. I'm not bound by the same journalistic code of practices. I see what I see and I say what I say. That's it. And for them to, honestly, this is why I think we are losing the battle. That he doesn't feel that media has any place in victory in a political world, and he sees somebody effectively a little gobshite on YouTube as a journalist. That to me shows enough warning signs. But I have to say, whilst I've obviously been fairly critical of the guy, fair play to him for getting in touch. And I do very much hope that the channel of communication continues, and that I'm able to still ask them points and clarify points on videos that I'm going to be making in regards to BASC. And fair play for giving me the time of day. I just think that my time spent on Zoom with him, the subsequent email that I've received, asks more questions than they answer, and I believe that he's just answering them in a politic, he's giving politician answers basically. Anyway, back on to you guys. That's sort of the long and the short of it. There will be a more concise, coherent video coming out very, very soon. I will be later in this stream going over very shortly I'll go over, because I'm sure it's something that you guys all want to know. I am going to go over the other organisations that offer insurance and in particular offer legal expenses, so stick around for that, because I do still stress that you need to have legal expenses insurance. You need to be covered if you get into any issues with the police whatsoever. But yeah, anyway, I'll spend a moment to catch up on your comments, just to see if there's anything in particular that you guys you want to talk about. Yeah, Daniel, it's 45 minutes later. I sort of predicted that this is what was going to happen, that it was just going to be an absolute dump of everything that had happened over the last few days. That's why I've called it the BASC special, so that no one can argue that I've just turned this whole stream into about BASC. I think it's very, very important. I think shooters should be aware, and certainly BASC members should be aware. Will they call ex-BASC members Basconians? Yeah, probably. They're going to need a word for it, because there's going to be a lot of them from what I've seen. Ricardo Bryan, Callum needs a pint. Yeah, I mean, again, Paul from Point Blank Simulator, stroke your glorious beard and chill. I can't call this glorious. Have you seen Connor's? He has a glorious beard. I'm not angry about this. Like, I always, this was what really screwed me in my appeal, is that I came across aggressive and angry when I started talking about sort of self-defense around the Paris attacks, and taking that as say a snippet, it could be seen to be extreme. I'm not angry. I'm not an angry person. I whinge and I moan, and I get frustrated, but I'm a fairly actually sort of laid back, carefree, but I'm also incredibly passionate. I'm incredibly about the things that I throw myself into. I never do things by halves. If I'm interested in something, I am interested into it to the point of obsession. And shooting for me is just the same. I am passionate about the hobby that I take part in, and I am even more so passionate about the protection of that sport. So, I do get worked up, but I'm not angry. Again, I don't hate BASC. There are some things that they are doing that are really, really good. They are really, they are protecting certain elements of the sport really, really well. And I do believe that overall BASC is a benefit. Just for me, not necessarily for sport shooting. So elaborating on the Offensive Weapons Bill 2.0. So again, sorry guys if I'm repeating this, but if people aren't fully aware, the 50 Cal Shooting Association released today a post saying, off we go again, the consultation on the security of firearms is due to be announced within the next 2 weeks. So they're gearing up for another consultation. Now, the original offensive weapons bill was all about consultation, and the thing is, they very rarely do things like this for one singular issue. So, in terms of the security of 50 cals, I don't think it will just be this. I feel that it's going to most likely include the likes of potentially box-fed semi-automatic shotguns, 2.2 semi-automatic AR-style rifles, air guns. Again, you know, I know I'm repeating myself for people that have joined from the start of the stream. Thank you for sticking with me on that. And I think air guns are at risk. There's been a lot of chatter. There's been a lot of talk about them bringing in licensing here in the UK. And if they've started up another round of consultation around firearms law, I feel that things like, you know, air weapons, assault spoons, box-fed semi-automatic shotguns, they will be in some way included. That's just my prediction. I don't have any basis for that at the moment. That's just from what I've seen over the last sort of 2 to 4 years, from general chatter, from general people's opinions, and of course this announcement. So there are going to be another line of or another sort of round of consultations, which is why I'm calling it the Offensive Weapons Bill 2.0. Han Yan, yes, that's what I believe. They're going to look at Scotland and go, they've done it. I didn't know Northern Ireland had airgun licensing, actually. But if they do, they're going to look at that and go, well, Northern Ireland has it. And what they will completely ignore is that I can't remember the exact statistic, but from what I remember, it was a really small amount of the estimated air guns in possession in Scotland that were actually ever registered. And for me, licensing air guns is absolutely futile. The absolute knobends that go around shooting cats, shooting children and babies, those are not the sort of people that are going to go and register their air guns. Those are the sort of people that will still continue to act like dickheads, can still continue to take pot shots at cats and children and toddlers and people, and will continue to stay in unlicensed possession of an air gun. I don't think licensing air guns at all. I don't believe licensing air guns is going to at all reduce any amount of misuse of air guns. Not when we have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of air guns up and down the country, tucked away in people's cupboards, tucked away in people's wardrobes, up the attic. You know, I think in total I probably have 4 or 5 air rifles in total, none of which have ever been registered in any way, none of which are on any sort of database. So what is that going to achieve? But I believe that's very much one of that could potentially be one of the sort of consultation points. And yeah, I've just seen something flash up. Emailing MPs, yeah, get proactive. This is something that if BASC are sitting on this information, if BASC are aware that another round of consultations are coming in, why aren't they asking their members to get in contact with the MPs now? Why aren't they publicising it? Why aren't they trying to gather as much support as they can to get people to write to their MPs, to get shooters aware of the potential bans that could be coming into place, because obviously from the man himself, the Director of Communications and Public Affairs for BASC, they don't feel that media has any role to play in victory within a political world. So that's why you won't see much from them, I believe. But yeah, so yeah, let me have a breather. Well, any other topics, or do you want to just keep on talking about this? Because I mean, what I could do, if you guys are interested, it might be a bit laborious because I'm not the best reader in the world, but what I could do, if you guys really want to sort of hear it word for word, I can read you the email that I sent Christopher with, well, I can read you the points that I raised with him, and I can read you his response as well, and that's black and white. There's no misinterpretation there. So if you guys would like me to spend 5-10 minutes going through those emails, let me know. But for anyone that's hung on to this point, again, thank you very much for sticking with me. Anyone watching now, please hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying this. I don't know how you can be enjoying it, but if you like what you see, if you like the channel, if you're liking the stream, I can see there's like over 70 people watching and 32 likes, so hit that thumbs up button. It does really make a difference to the YouTube analytics. It helps share it, it gets more people interested, makes more people aware. You know, I don't just say it because of my own vanity of seeing how many likes there are on the video. It genuinely makes a difference to the analytics, although you know, it does make me warm and fuzzy inside. So do other things as well, but we won't go into those now. I'm really sorry. I can see there's an absolute wall of questions and comments, so I'm really sorry if I've missed any of your questions. Keep trying. Richard Weston, that's interesting. They have 10 million in reserves in the bank according to their recent accounts. That's very interesting. This is actually something that Christopher's touched on, was that again, the £1 million wasn't raised by saving the insurance, although that's what he sort of hinted at during our Zoom call. But anyway, I don't know, maybe I misinterpreted that. But he states that it came from their own built-up reserve. So by the looks of it, it came from that £10 million. You have to ask, if they have £10 million sat in a bank account somewhere, why aren't they trying to get handguns back for sport shooting? Why aren't they trying to get semi-automatic rifles back for sport shooting? Why didn't they give a bigger push to saving Mars and lever release? If they have £10 million sat in the account, why wasn't that used? You know, it makes you think. Some coder, I'm planning for Plan B outside of the UK. I really would. The way things the way things seem to be heading in the UK, the way that, you know, certainly personally, I'm unhappy with the way that the big organisations are sort of dealing with say sporting firearm ownership. Yeah, that's yeah. Look for somewhere else, because we're not going to have guns for much longer at this rate. Yeah, the algorithm. The algorithms on YouTube are spectacularly powerful. You like warm and fuzzy things inside you. No, I said it gave me a warm and fuzzy feeling inside. Daniel Smerald, Callum, why would BASC help the community? Again, I do want to say that they do help areas of the community significantly. I just don't think, you know, and again, in saying this, I know I'm creating a division. I know I'm creating a them and us approach of, you know, sport shooters versus game shooters. But I'm commenting on what BASC seem to be doing to create that divide. You know, so, you know, by having a very secular communication approach when it comes to email, by seemingly not doing as much for sport shooters without a vested interest for hunting, by, you know, there's all these things that sort of add up, and it's like someone has to call it out. You know, why does it have to be me? It doesn't have to be me. It could be anyone. But I'm calling it out. I could be completely wrong. They could be the best thing since sliced bread for sport shooters and firearms ownership in the UK. This £1 million fighting fund could change the face of gun ownership in the UK as we know it. I just have to go on their past actions. I just have to go on what has happened in the past where they have seemingly sort of declared their loyalties. V Pope, thank you very much for the donation. I guess that's one way to get me to see a question. Again, I know, guys, this isn't usually how I like to do the live streams, but this is a very significant topic for me. Is it time for sport shooters to rally around another organisation rather than BASC or the NRA? Yes. Yes, it is. And actually, that's a nice segue into the other organisations that are available, the other companies and associations that offer legal insurance as well. Now, one of the obvious organisations to go and support is the Owners' Rights Cooperative. However, if I'm going to be completely honest, I mean, I absolutely love Mike. I don't necessarily, you know, disagree with what he's doing. I think that an organisation like that needs to be more focused on sporting use of firearms rather than self-defense. So, you know, I think that's very, very divisive. Obviously, Mike living out in Northern Ireland, they're allowed to have guns for self-defense out there. I can completely understand that he, you know, sees it as a bigger priority. You know, he's very American-centric as well, and of course, Second Amendment, right to self-defense, and all that. I just think we need an organisation that isn't going to maybe focus on self-defense, or you know, focusing on stuff like pepper spray and you know, less than lethal self-defense methods, or even guns for self-defense. I think it should be about the sport, whether that's the sport of game shooting, or whether that's the sport of practical shooting, or the sport of Olympic handgun shooting, or Olympic rifle shooting, or Olympic clay pigeon shooting, or whatever. I think that's actually an easier thing to get the public on board with. And ultimately, again, this is my biggest issue with BASC, is they seem to be less focused on gathering public interest in shooting sports. And I think that, you know, an organisation like the Owners' Right Cooperative is very well placed, using modern communication methods like social media, are very, very well versed to gather new interest in the sport. I just think you are, until you are able to fully explain to people, I think the topic of self-defense is very, very divisive. So yeah, I don't know. I can't necessarily say at this point in time that there is an organisation or an association that is truly in line with what I think sport shooters need, target shooters need. The NRA, I think it's laughable what they do in terms of being proactive. Again, they're very much an inwards organisation, very much a behind closed door secret handshake meeting with politicians and police, with no communication or little communication to their members. I don't think they have the interest of the entire sport shooting community at the forefront of their organisation. Obviously, target shooting, yes. Gallery shooting, yes. But when it comes to handguns, when it comes to practical shooting, when it comes to a number of different other disciplines, they don't seem to be very interested. They also are very, very busily centric. You know, people like to, they always get confused when you're trying to explain to them what the UK NRA is, and you say NRA and they instantly think about American, which is, you know, a lobbyist organisation. It's very much about protecting and pushing forward. I know people have objections about the American NRA, but they for me do a lot more in terms of lobbying than the NRA ever have. And I would like to see the NRA be more proactive, be more in people's faces about shooting, gathering people's interest, new people's interest. I mean, I think the first time I properly fell out with the NRA was over a video where I slated them for stopping guest days. And they just said, well, they weren't economically viable. I said, well, you're not charging enough then, are you? You know, how much does it charge? 20 quid. Well, make it 50 quid then. You know, there's a lot of people out there that will go and pay 50 quid to spend some time on a range to shoot a gun when they've never shot a gun before, especially when you have a direct train line from London, and you're only, 45 minutes away from London. Like, people are going to come here and spend 50 quid, 100 quid to try a gun. And not only are you then making money from them on these guest days, you're introducing somebody new to the sport. You're getting them pulling the trigger. But anyway, I think I've made my stance on the NRA fairly clear in the past. So yeah, again, I said I was going to go through all the different insurances. So I haven't fully completed sort of my research on this, but this is what I have at the moment. So if you're leaving BASC, or you're worried that BASC isn't going to cover you in terms of legal expenses, there are some other alternatives. First of all, coincidentally, is the NRA. So as it stands, the UK NRA at the moment, if you are a UK NRA member, you will have up to £50,000 legal expenses cover if you have any issues with revocations or rejected applications. A commercial company called Gunplan has legal expense insurance as well. That goes up to £100,000. It's an optional extra on their main plan, which is public liability, but you do need public liability. And again, BASC is still supplying that. I still think that is very, very important. I just think it's as equally as important having the legal expenses cover as well. So you can use gun plan. There are some caveats, and this is something that I should make very, very clear, and what I haven't had a chance really to dive into yet, is that these companies and organizations and associations will have certain terms and conditions on the legal expenses insurance, and I'll bring it up because very thankfully CJ, who works with us on Government TV, he passed this on to me. Was it today or yesterday? I don't know. It's been a very long day. So specifically for gun plan, they will, so what is covered? Certificate appeals and criminal prosecution defence. So gun plan will insure you for any legal cost if an appeal or representation to the relevant authority following an act or omission or alleged act or omission which leads to the suspension or revocation of your firearm or shotgun certificate, or where the relevant authority has failed to grant your firearm and shotgun certificate. So that covers revocation and it covers failed grants. And it will also defence of your legal rights where criminal proceedings have been brought against you for the breach of firearms legislation. But there are a few things that are not covered. So basically, if you end up having a criminal conviction, they don't want anything to do with that. It's purely for your licensing. If you declare, and this is something that I do want to, it's sort of seeing this, it did very much remind me that I haven't really stressed this for a while. So gun plan won't cover you if you knowingly declare incorrect or untrue information when applying, amending or renewing a firearm or shotgun certificate. And this is imperative when you're filling out your application form for anything, be that a variation or an initial application or for renewal. Declare absolutely everything. If you had, if you were on antidepressants 30 years ago, declare it. You might think, well, that was 30 years ago. I don't need, whatever. I don't need to declare it. It's not an issue anymore. If you had a speeding ticket 15 years ago, declare it. If you were arrested at any point, even if you were let go with no further action, declare it. Absolutely declare every single thing that you can think of in terms of mental health or convictions or any issues with the police. Because if you don't, firstly, an insurance like this won't cover you if you get into issues, and also if the police find out there is something that you have not declared, it's going to land you in issues. So that's things to be aware of with say gun plan. Bluefin. Now Bluefin's a sort of a weird, interesting one. So Bluefin Sport, I phoned them up and they said that their legal expenses only covers legal issues for the club. However, if you go on the NSRA website, the NSRA also gives you legal expenses insurance, which is provided through Bluefin. So I don't know if there was a little bit of confusion while I was on the phone to Bluefin, but I think they do offer legal expenses insurance. You might want to be 100% certain of that if you go with them directly, or maybe if you're interested in going with Bluefin, go through the NSRA, because the NSRA quite clearly state on their website that their membership covers legal expenses insurance, and that is through Bluefin. So that's one. The Country Cover Club, so it's C cubed. They also have a legal expenses up to £100,000. This, I believe, is a sort of, I think it's like a mix between like an organisation and a company. But anyway, that's somewhere you can go for. They offer legal expenses insurance up to £100,000. But something that I didn't see advertised on any other of them, I might be mistaken, but something that was quite clearly stated on the Country Cover Club website, they have a 24-hour-a-day revocation hotline. And again, speaking from personal experiences, you want that, right? Because no matter how well you think you know the law, no matter how well you think you could handle a situation like being arrested and being asked to surrender your firearm certificate, it will hit you like a brick fucking wall, and all rationale and logic goes out the window. You will become absolutely dazed. And to have a hotline that's 24 hours a day, and I don't think even BASC offer this, whilst they have obviously an incredibly experienced firearms team, and incredibly knowledgeable, and you know, and that is something that no other organisation seems to offer. The Country Cover Club has a 24-hour revocation hotline that you can phone, and you can get help with revocation, even if it's as simple as, I'm having my licenses revoked as we speak. Help. What do I do? What should I be asking? What can they do? What can't they do? Help, right? And that's really what you need in a situation like that. So as far as I can find, there's no other organisations. Let me know if you know of any that specifically state legal expenses. But I'm going to talk about a few as well that don't, or as far as I can see, don't. So I've seen a lot of people mentioning the NGO, the National Game, I think it's the National Gamekeepers Association, organisation. No legal cover. So it's black and white on their website. The NGO does not give you any legal expenses insurance. All of these will give you public liability insurance if you hurt yourself or somebody else, and within the public liability insurance, they will cover court costs if someone takes you to court for liability. But the NGO will not, as far as I can see on their website, will not give you legal expenses insurance, which will help you through a revocation or a rejection of an application. SACS is also another organisation that a lot of people have been throwing about, and as far as I can see, I have been trying to call them. I think I did actually call the NGO, and they confirmed it. SACS is the one that I haven't actually been able to speak to yet. They tried to call me back, I missed them, tried to call them back, and I couldn't get through to them. I can't find any mention on their website of legal expenses insurance. Again, they have liability insurance, but they don't have legal expenses insurance. So the reason I'm telling you about the ones that don't do it is because you might be sat there thinking you're covered. Well, I don't think you are with the NGO or SACS. And actually, there was an important statement made on the SACS website which says allegation of criminal conduct may invalidate any claim. Only liability is listed. So what that means in terms of an allegation of criminal conduct, if a disgruntled partner, if a disgruntled neighbour, a disgruntled boss, employee, friend, or just randomer off the street makes a criminal allegation against you, that may well invalidate the complete SACS insurance. And that's just for the liability. Again, I can't find anything about yes or no for the legal expenses cover, but hopefully this will all be included in the video, and hopefully by that point I would have spoken to them to clarify it. Another big organisation that has no legal cover apart from liability is the Countryside Alliance. Again, another one that a lot of people are a member of, maybe thinking that you have legal expenses insurance for a revocation or refusal of an application. Not with the Countryside Alliance, you don't. So that's sort of it. I'm not going to give necessarily any opinion on which one you should go and join if you're looking for legal expenses cover. Personally, I would avoid the NRA, although as soon as they will let me, I will become an NRA member because I love using Bisley. But I'm not really interested in their support because, well, when they found out that I'd lost my licenses, it wasn't, oh, how did that happen? It was, oh, okay, here's your membership cancelled. Great support there, guys. But certainly ones that I think are worth looking into are the Country Cover Club, the NSRA, Bluefin Sport, but please check, because they told me that it doesn't cover individuals. Gun plan, and of course the NRA. If you are an NRA member, you will have already legal expenses insurance up to £50,000. Funny enough, I don't know if I can talk about it actually, but there is a club that I know of that is actually looking at getting their own insurance, and I'm also aware of people that are currently in the works of also offering further insurance, but I don't want to talk about any of that more. It's all sort of pie in the sky at the moment. If any of that sort of comes to fruition, then I will of course let you guys know. Yeah. So that's it. That's basically the crux of it in terms of my knowledge of all the different insurances available at the moment. Of course, if you've just joined the stream, well, thanks for joining, and anyone that's stuck with it, thanks for sticking with it. The big news is, of course, BASC is no longer providing legal expenses insurance, which is what I have advocated joining BASC for the last 6 years or so. So something to be aware of. Oh, can I breathe now? Is that it? Do you want more? Do you want Monkey to dance more? I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't advocate breaking the law. It's bad enough Callum saying self-defense several times. Self-defense is not a bad word. Like, I'm not advocating anything. I'm just purely using the term self-defense in context. Hi, Mum. I actually started the stream. It's gone all flat and shit now. But I started the stream with the hat off, and people told me to put it back on. Maybe it just it makes my covers my face a bit more. I mean, if you really want me to go the full hog, because of course the hairdressers today you had to wear the mask. I mean, that's not a good look. You wouldn't want to bump into that in a dark alley, would you? Oh, give me your guns. No, that's neighbours. Anyway, he blinded us with his shiny head. Ha! Thanks, Dan. Good friends as always. So yeah, I know I kept saying, guys, like, pitch in and ask questions. I'm sorry that I've obviously just been talking up my arse for the last hour and 20 minutes. Wow, that's got to be a record. Hang Yang language. Yes, I do get a little bit more fruity with my language on the streams. I do apologise for any under 18s watching. I mean, it is past 8 o'clock, but I'm a lot more, say, relaxed when I do these streams. You can probably tell that just from all the penis jokes, basically. But I do swear. Like, I am only human. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm some saint. I do swear. I just think there's a time and place for it, and apparently my time and place for it is on the live streams. So what have you guys have been chatting, and I'm sorry for ignoring all of you guys. Is there anything more that you want to talk about? Any other any other points you want to talk about? Oh yeah, did you guys did you guys want to go through the emails at all? I can just read those off, or have you all royally had enough about the whole BASC thing? It's completely up to you. If you want to keep talking about it, we'll keep talking about it. Manku Man UK PSA. I don't know. They might be looking into it, but we'll have to see if there are any other developments, if any other organisations, if any other clubs bring out insurance. I will let you guys let you guys know. Oh yeah, of course, CPSA. How could I forget? I'm actually going to add that to the list, because the CPSA was the only one prior to this that I knew offered legal expenses. So I better not leave that off the second video where I cover it. But yeah. So yeah, of course, the CPSA, if you watch the previous video, you would know the CPSA does give legal expenses, but it's only for shotgun certificates. But I won't go over that. But yeah, the CPSA does give cover. Skinner 2004 my FAC question. Let me scroll up. Sorry, I will find it. Where are you? God, you asked this a while ago. Again, I'm really sorry, guys. I just think this is, you know, I do like to mix it up on the streams. I do like to keep, you know, refreshing with different the topic, but I just think this is significant. Wow, you've been really persistent, Skinner. 2004. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm trying to find your question. You really did ask it a while ago, so you've been very, very patient. I can't find it. Please repost it. Please, please ask the question again, Skinner 2004. Go to the top for my. Oh, maybe you asked it before the stream, and for some reason it's now not showing me. I can't scroll that far. Sorry. But if you're still here, I completely understand if you've gone elsewhere. But yeah, just ask it again, and I'll get to answering it. Julian Brummerhoff, how strict are they with old depression to get a license? Not particularly. It does depend. It is sort of like a how long's a piece of string sort of question. It depends on the situation. It depends if you're on medication, if you ever had any you know, attempts at your life, any self-harm. Basically, but usually the further away something is, like if anything is longer than sort of 5 to certainly 10 years prior to your application, it does have a significantly smaller effect than if it was more recent. And but then the effect it has is going to be very much based on the circumstances at the time. So it is really case by case dependent, but it's not a complete no-go. Just because you have, you know, previously had issues with mental health, you can go and serve prison time and still come out and years later get a firearms certificate. So there's there's no reason you shouldn't, but again, declare it, be completely upfront. The best thing to do actually with the likes of sort of depression and mental health issues, go and speak to your GP and basically ask your GP, do you think I'd be a suitable person to have a firearms certificate or shotgun certificate? If your GP agrees, if your GP is on board, then the police don't really have a lot to stand on because they're not medical experts. So if your GP is going to support you, then you're most likely going to get the license. Skinner 2004, again, sorry about that. The question was, I put down the guns I want on my application. Does it mean once granted I have to go out and buy them straight away, or can I buy them gradually and build up my collection? So this is also quite a difficult question because it does depend on your county. Some counties have different criteria to others. Some are harder on this than others. But generally, the way I understand it is that if it's purely a financial issue, they can't force you to go out and buy them all straight away. At the end of the day, if you apply for, let's say, 10 guns and the guns average at, say, 1,500 quid each, well, that's £15,000 worth of gun. I think it's very unreasonable for people to instantly go out and buy all of those. And then even, you know, over 5 years, you're spending £3,000 a year on guns. That's not, again, most people can't afford to do that. So the way that I always approach this is that if the only reason you haven't gone out and bought them and filled those slots is purely monetarily, is purely down to money, then when it comes down to your renewal, or if you have a variation 3 years down the line and they go, oh, you haven't bought this one yet, but you're asking for this, you know, actually that's probably a point that might cause you an issue, because you go, well, I have the money to buy that one but not that one, or I need that one more right now rather than that one. But I would just say to them, if it comes down, you know, if it comes down to a point where they go, why haven't you filled it, and it's down to money, I would just say, I still have the same justification and requirement that I did when I first applied for that slot. I just haven't had the money to be able to fill it. And for me, I think that is a valid defence. You know, you still have a need for it, you still have a requirement for it, you still have justification for it, but you just haven't had the money to be able to fill to fill that slot. Yeah, sorry, Zero. I cannot condone robbing banks for buying guns. That's not happening on here. You know, I get yeah, and also that, please guys, do remember the reason that I don't currently have my licenses is because of comments from other people on the channel. So please be mindful what you write. Please be mindful that it's not going to reflect negatively on me. Martin Clark, what is happening about your FAC? So basically it's a waiting game. Oh yeah, shall we do it? Shall we do the weekly check of Hampshire? Let's see if Hampshire have opened up their licensing. Nope. I'll go for the double check and put in postcode and see if it comes up with anything. So basically, I'd agreed with Hampshire Firearms that I would be reapplying for my applications, reapplying for my firearm certificate and shotgun certificate. No, they're still shut. As of the 1st of May 2020, which has obviously been and gone. But because of COVID-19, Hampshire still have not opened up, despite shops being open, despite people going back to work, despite most other sort of departments getting back to it. Hampshire still aren't. So we'll have to see. Hopefully it's any day now, but as soon as they open up for applications, I will be putting my applications in. You've quite studiously ignored valid comments on BASC's FUD credentials. Don't know what you mean about that, if I'm going to be honest. MPs already know how important firearms are. They are protected by them daily. Absolutely. Although I did see something that they're actually going to reduce the amount of armed sort of protection that MPs and certain dignitaries received, which I think sort of making that information public is just like, you know, attack here. You know, they're going to be unprotected. It's like, it seems bonkers. Can a Section 5 holder loan guns to you to shoot? If it's under the TV and film exemption, but you can't shoot live rounds with that, as far as I believe, you can only shoot blanks. Ricardo Bryan, that's what the offensive bill is all about, stopping Callum getting his FAC back. Yeah, at this point, I really wouldn't put it past him, you know. Carl Volt, hi Carl, I did see that you popped up. Thanks for joining as always. Can we comment all guns should be banned to get your get your guns back faster? Yeah, yeah, you can give it a go at this point. Whatever. Yeah, a couple of other things, because of course we you know, we've been very, very BASC centric this evening, but there are a couple of other things that I do want to sort of tick off. The GSG Firefly, I think I've talked about it on a previous stream, but the video went out this week. I was really, really impressed with it. I don't think it's necessarily so suited for competition because of the controls, but it was reliable. Put, I think, 300 rounds odd through it, no issues. I felt it very comfortable to hold, very ergonomic, and of course it is effectively a rebranded SIG Mosquito, which is a smaller version of the Sig Sauer P226. So if you're a SIG fan, I would recommend the GSG, although there is a Mark 1 and a Mark 2. And the Mark 1 is what got the really bad reputation for reliability issues. The Mark 2 is what I ended up reviewing, which was great. Someone did ask me how you tell the difference between a Mark 1 and a Mark 2. I guess the Mark 2 works. Apart from that, I don't actually know the differences. But yeah, if you're interested in learning more about the GSG Firefly, you can, after the stream, it's on the channel, watch the video. Hope you guys enjoy it if you do go and watch it. We were talking about the owners' rights cooperatives. Now, that whilst I don't necessarily think the best tack at the moment is going down the self-defense route, something that Mike has been very, very vocal about and is sort of trying to campaign for is the Paint It Pink campaign, which I think is very apt given that we've been talking so much about the offensive weapons bill this evening. So the Paint It Pink campaign is something that I'm going to be pushing heavily myself, because we all know what they love to do when they confiscate a load of guns, when they make guns illegal, and then take them off you. They love to then parade in the media photo after photo after video of these guns being handled in, parading them, going, look how much safer we have made the country by taking these guns out of the most respectable, law-abiding, upstanding members of our society. Anyway, so Mike is advocating at the moment that before you hand it in, before you surrender that gun for whatever compensation that we are going to receive, they have announced there is going to be compensation. We don't yet know exactly what the compensation will be, but paint it pink, right? So when they go to do this glorious photo of all of these guns that they have taken out of law-abiding citizens' hands, they are pink. Just like that, please, like anyone that has, like, if you know anyone that has a Mars or Lever release, or if you have a Mars or a Lever release, do it. Tell them, spread it, share it. Get everyone that currently owns a Mars or Lever release to paint it pink. And I think what a lovely touch would be as well is to put unicorn stickers. Unicorn, Hello Kitty, Powerpuff Girls, any sort of, Barbie stickers. Paint it pink and sticker it with whatever you want. And then when they go to do that typical look at all these guns that we're taking out of people's hands, they're all these pink Hello Kitty covered guns. I think nothing will be more hilarious. And I think it's maybe it's maybe the last sort of, fingers up at doing it, because again, there was no justification, no sort of rhyme or reason other than they don't like how fast they shoot, so we're going to take them off you. Yes, there was almost a Freudian slip there that Blackstone managed to pick up on. Law. I did almost say law-abiding criminals. However, actually, I think that's quite apt, because by changing the law, by banning the Mars and Lever release, they have made law-abiding criminals of people. People are now in possession of guns that are prohibited, whichever way you want to cut it. So yeah, those are the other points. But yeah, please, anyone that you know that has a Mars or Lever release, get them to paint it pink. Paint it pink. And also, if you want any help, you're more than welcome to come down to Bluefield Sports. We will more than happily paint it pink for you. But that's the that's the campaign. That's what we should be doing, basically. Anyway, so that's sort of all the other points, because I knew this was going to be a very heavy BASC heavy video. Paint it rainbow, paint it whatever. You can. Sticker-bombed pink guns could look a tad psychotic. I think it'd just be funny. I just think that's going to make people think the owner was a nut job. Yeah, okay, right, but no. We will give it so much publicity that people will know why they are painted pink. We're painting these pink because there is no justification, as far as we understand. They've never been used in crime. And is a criminal going to want to go and get a Mars action rifle versus, say, a CZ Scorpion down, is it a CZ Scorpion? But, a Scorpion machine pistol, or an Uzi, or a sawn-off shotgun, or a pistol, or whatever. There are so many more attractive guns out there to criminals. And if criminals are going to start breaking into people's houses specifically for Mars, I just honestly don't see that happening. Plans for new videos. That's actually a very good point, Daniel. One second, Richard. Thanks. Hi, Richard. Thanks for joining. a loyal supporter of the channel. You said BDS. That sounds dodgy. I will have a look at those. And see what they do. Yeah. So videos that I have planned coming up. So Ben Ducker, who's quite an accomplished international sort of 3-gun IPSC shooter. He's the UK Open Division shotgun champion. He knows his way around a shotgun. He came down and did a what's in the range bag video. Now the reason I went for Ben is because I still haven't fully sorted out my range bag for competition, so I haven't fully tuned in exactly what I want in there yet, so I don't think it's really, you know, it makes any sense showing you what's in my range bag because it's going to change. But Ben is someone that has spent many years perfecting what's in his range bag to the point that it is bulging. Like literally every square inch of that bag is filled with something. So Ben very kindly came down. We do have a couple of videos with him that are going to go out on Gunroom TV at some point, and he spent the time, so this will be on English Shooting, and we go through his range bag, and this is his absolute, anytime I go to the range I have this bag on me. I would say that perhaps what he had in it was a little excessive, and you'll understand what I mean by that when you watch the video, but pretty much anything that isn't in Ben Ducker's range bag isn't worth having. I would certainly recommend, when you see the video, I do go into detail on it, I would recommend maybe not going as far as Ben, but Ben is a serious top level competitor. You know, he spends a lot of money on the sport. He wants to compete at the top level, and he doesn't want something as silly as like not having a battery for his sight in there. He doesn't want something as silly as not having the right Allen key or the right screwdriver or whatever. So really it's like the video I think is going to be titled The Ultimate Range Bag, because really everything you're ever going to need is in there. So that one's going to be coming out. Let me actually have a look at the video list on the thing. What's currently in edit? So of course I was going to be releasing a video on the Lantac LA, no, not Lantac LA SF15, the Lantac Raven. That's been put on pause. I explained that in a previous stream. Oh, we've got, this isn't going to be on English Shooting, but I think a video that a lot of you guys will probably really enjoy on Gunroom TV. We had a longbow enthusiast come down to hear, and he specialises and is really passionate about medieval longbows, and I really underestimated really the sort of the history of them, but also actually how difficult they are to use. So Connors presents that video. I'm behind the camera on it, but that's going to be a video that's going out on Gunroom TV, and it's basically an introduction to longbow shooting. So something a bit different, something a bit interesting, I think. What else do we have on the cards? That might be it in terms of English Shooting. Yeah, so yeah, I don't think there's anything currently in edit apart from what I've already talked about. In terms of guns that I'm going to be doing reviewing of actually over this weekend, a subscriber very kindly bought down his SIG 552, 522, 552, 522. Anyway, you know what I mean. The SIG 22 semi-automatic rifle. That will be reviewed this weekend. Hopefully that will be out soon. And also a Rimfire Magic Ruger 1022. I'll be reviewing that over the weekend as well. So those are going to be reviews that are coming out. I can't think of any guns at the moment sort of that I'm planning to review. I do feel like I want to get a little bit more into over and under shotguns. You know, I've got the Silver Pigeon review, but we have a whole gun room full of over and under Beretta shotguns. You all know my love for Beretta. And, you know, I just thought maybe about, you know, learning a bit more about them, the different varieties in the Beretta range. So if you would be interested in that, let me know. And maybe I could do some more, like, rifle shooting. Not just, I mean, like, instead of just 2.2 semi-automatics all the time. Again, we've got a whole host of different caliber rifles. So a video that I had actually really liked to do is, I think it was Ray Trade today announced a new variant of the Remington 700 in a really like high-end precision stock, and they do it in both 308 and 6.5 Creedmoor, and I think a couple of other calibers. And I was thinking that you guys keep on asking me about 308 and 6.5, so I am going to see if I can, you know, get hold of somebody at Ray Trade and see if they would very kindly send me down both a 6.5 and a 308 with this gun, because I've always liked the Remington 700. I did used to own one, but you know, I had to get rid of it, obviously. I'll probably get another Remington 700 at some point, but this one just looked the absolute dog's bollocks. It's the only one that I've looked at that has anyway tempted me from not putting a 700 in Accuracy International stock. So perhaps I could learn a bit more about 7.62. I could learn a bit more about 308 and 6.5 Creedmoor by getting one of these, you know, both of these rifles and sort of doing a side-by-side comparison. And if Ray Trade would be up for that, that would be awesome. But I'll get in contact with them and see what they say. But apart from that, don't think there's any other videos planned. Of course, there's going to be the follow-up video for BASC, talking about, you know, all of the different other organizations that are available and what they offer, and also going into detail about my Zoom call with Chris Graphius, and also his following emails. But actually, I saw a number of people that wanted for me to go over the emails, so I'm sorry if this is going to become a bit of a snore fest for you guys. So as I was talking earlier, I was in communication with the Director of Communications and Public Affairs for BASC. I sent him a number after having a 45-minute Zoom call. I then sent him a number of emails I sent him an email with a number of points that I wanted clarifying, or some questions that I thought were sort of prudent to answer, and he's given me a list of answers. So seeing as a number of you wanted to sort of go over this, I'll go through that now. And again, I know, very BASC-centric, but I think this is important, and it's important for people to be aware, and for this to be out there. So basically, you know, what he asked is for me to go through what the future video is going to be containing, my sort of standpoint at the moment, and then again any particular points that I wanted to raise. So what I said is that the follow-up video will be filmed in the next few days. It should contain everything already discussed on our Zoom call. My position is BASC did not consult the membership on this decision, and that they said that the money would be better spent elsewhere. A few days later, BASC announced a new fighting fund, in my opinion, paid for by dropping the insurance. Members have paid to receive one thing and now have another. No warning, no consultation, no prior communication. My issue with the change in insurance is that instead of receiving equal, fair and impartial insurance, members now have to hope BASC deem their case beneficial to pursue. And then I ask a number of specific questions. What steps have been taken to establish what the interests of the membership are? Specifically, what was done to establish how many members joined BASC because of the expense insurance? Why wasn't the fighting fund announced with the news of ending legal expense insurance for revocation and refusals, leaving members to make their own conclusion? Why wasn't there more effort made to inform all members using email, which is 80% of the membership covered, and social media, 31% of the membership on estimate? How are you going to ensure that members are covered financially in appealing revocations and rejections? So that's mainly the crux of it. That's what I ended up putting forward to him, you know, and basically invited comment on all of that. And if you're still with me, this was his response. So he said, we did not discuss consultation Yeah, we did not discuss consultation in the time available. Please note that BASC, like every other shooting organisation, does not decide issues by plebiscite. Now, if you're as bad as me with English and words, what plebiscite means is by vote, basically. But by the decision of its democratically elected council in accordance with its FCA-approved constitution. Individual council members will have their own means of consulting members before taking decisions. So that's, for me, sort of fair enough. They're not obligated to consult with their members. They don't have to in any way, shape or form. But again, I think on a decision like this, you probably should have. It's not a question of what you are obliged to do. It is what I think is courteous on such a big decision. He then says that the new fighting fund is not being paid for by dropping the insurance. As I explained, the insurance was never factored into subs, which have risen since the insurance was introduced by inflation. The fighting fund is being funded from reserved, saved for protecting shooting sports. Members have therefore not paid through their subs for the insurance since it was introduced. Again, I still think no matter which way you look at it, if you save money as an organisation, as a business, as a company, as an association, whatever, if you save money in one area and then decide to spend it in another, it's as long as it is short. Even if they if what he is saying is absolutely true, and they haven't directly gone, right, we're going to take this and put it there. What they've done is gone, right, we're going to save money by doing that, and then, oh yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then, oh wait, you've got £1 million here, let's do that with it. And I think they may have not necessarily be putting the dots together. And he also states that all cases under the insurance were always subject to merits assessment, and around 50% of claims were ruled out each year. All cases are treated equally, and do not and not to do so would put us in breach of our FCA obligations. As stressed, the support, expertise, and advocacy of the only firearms team of any organisation is still there and active for the benefit of members. Now, again, I have never disputed the brilliance of the firearms team at BASC and how that resource is in some ways invaluable. And I genuinely thought, before doing that I would keep my BASC membership just to retain the resource of the firearms team. However, I don't see that the firearms team is actually much use if you don't have the legal fighting fund to be able to, well, not legal fighting fund, but the legal expenses insurance to then actually back up what the firearms team says. And moreover, whilst he says that only around 50% of claims actually made use of the insurance, it's now 0%. 50% chance is a hell of a lot larger chance than 0%. And whilst he states that the cases were always merits assessed, or it had its criteria, again, I'm not disputing that. What I asked is, how is it going to be assessed going forward? What are BASC going to do to make sure that their members still have the same level of cover as they did before, which unfortunately he hasn't actually answered. BASC have been representing the interests of its members for more than a century. All members have a vote in electing council to manage the association. All members have rights set out in the constitution to make their voices heard. We regularly survey members on their interest, views and reasons for joining. The primary and overwhelming reason for joining BASC are to contribute to the protection and promotion of the sport and benefit from third-party liability insurance, the best in the sector, as he's claiming. And again, so perhaps they've done a little bit of polling and they've found out that protection and promotion of the sport and third-party liability insurance. But if there is such a confusion between the legal expenses insurance and also the public liability insurance, again, I would like to see them provide data on this. And again, have they actually specifically asked their membership, if they are that interested in the expenses insurance, or have they just sort of made an educated guess? And you know, whilst people have votes, whilst it's very democratic, again, something I think that is as big as removing the legal expenses insurance should have definitely have been, you know, checked upon with the members first, just out of just courtesy. And actually, I think it's clear to see the from the reaction of the previous video how important that legal expenses insurance was, because the video has over 100 comments, and I think pretty much every single one is saying how they're either not going to sign up to BASC or they're going to be cancelling their BASC membership. And he says that the decision was taken by council to announce the fighting fund at the AGM. The announcement of the legal expenses insurance policy was driven by the publishing schedule of the magazine and the dates of the policy. Members are always able to draw their own conclusions and make their views known to BASC, council and staff as they wish within the requirements of the Constitution. Yeah, okay, so he's very, you know, gratefully set out that we, of course, you know, as members or members of BASC, can make their views known and, of course, can draw their own conclusions. Yeah, no shit, right? What I asked was that why was it left to the members making their own conclusion, which he hasn't answered. Why was it separated? Because whilst they may have had to have rushed it to meet the magazine schedule, which of course we all read the magazine, don't we? Why not fast forward the fighting fund? And I think, again, there is something very interesting between the lack of publicity and media and notification of around, whilst it did go out to all members through the obvious, you know, the magazine that we all read. Why wasn't more of an effort made about informing of this change? And yet, when you look at what they have put out there in regards to the legal fighting fund, they've shouted about that. Why not in the videos that they've put out about the fighting fund? Why not talk about that they've, you know, also lost legal expenses, you know, and perhaps there might be some connection between the two, as Christopher alluded to in the Zoom call to me, although he seemingly changed his mind on that. As I explained, we do not hold email addresses for many members. This change under FCA rules had to be communicated to all members. The magazine is the only information stream that goes to all members. Again, I'm well aware that under FCA, they are obliged and obligated to inform all of the members of the change of the insurance, and by sending all of the members this lovely useful magazine that we of course all definitely read, they've ticked that box. My question to him was, why wasn't more of an effort made with the other forms of communication? Why wasn't an email sent out to the 80% of members that have email? Why wasn't more? Well, I don't think actually anything was put out on social media about it. Maybe I may be wrong on that. I think it might have been one post. But for something that is an FCA obligation to notify all of your members, that probably should stress to you how important it is to try and inform as many members as possible and to publicise the change as much as you can. Again, especially as email and social media is free. It doesn't charge you to put out a post or send an email. So why didn't they do it? Another point, long before the insurance was taken out, BASC, so long before they took out the legal expenses insurance, BASC represented those members unable to represent themselves where an issue of principle was at stake. And there is an impressive range of wins, for example, allowing possession of pistols for humane dispatch, which occurred before the legal expenses was introduced. Again, I'm not disputing BASC's victories. I'm not disputing that about the work that they have done without the legal expenses insurance, and I'm not disputing that BASC off their own back have protected their members in the instances of revocations and refusals. My question is, what will they be doing going forward? It's all well and good saying, look how many licenses we've saved in the past, even before we had legal expenses insurance. But what is going to happen going forward? As a member, obviously, I'm not, but if I were a member, what reassurances do I have that I am going to have the same level as protection? It's all well and good saying, yeah, we've got all this money, we've saved all this money with the insurance policy, and don't worry, we've got all your back. It's just words. Where's the format? Where's the communication? Where is it in black and white saying this is what we will still do for our members? But the thing that scares me the most out of that point is where an issue of principle was at stake. Well, who decides if it's an issue of principle? Does allowing somebody for speaking openly about self-defense on their YouTube channel, having their licenses taken away because of talking about those issues, is that a principle? Is that an issue of principle? Or will it just be game shooters? Will it just be hunters? Will it just be the stalkers? Will it be the wildfowlers? What are the principles? And again, there's no clear definition. What will they stand up for? Who will they protect within their membership? And again, he hasn't answered that question. BASC already has, and has for more than 2 decades, a strategic objective to protect the private ownership of firearms. Again, they're just words. You can have a strategic objective, but what is it? Right? Yeah. We of course want everyone, to still own their guns, but what are you going to do to help protect them? What is in black and white? What is actually the process? What is the assessment of whether someone still gets that protection? Yeah, of course, BASC, it's very easy to say that they obviously, what was the exact wording? A strategic objective to protect the private ownership of firearms. But the private ownership of firearms for what purpose? Is that target shooting? Is that game shooting? Again, there seems to be, for me, it's just words. I think I have asked fairly straightforward questions, and I've just been given politician answers. He's answered he's answered the question without answering the question. Now he does say, go back and please don't. Well, this was his ending line of the email. Don't hesitate to get back to me if you have any further questions. As you know, accuracy and balanced reporting are the hallmark of good journalism. I'm not a journalist. I've never been a journalist. I don't want to be a journalist. I think that's actually quite an insult in some cases, calling somebody a journalist, right? And of course, I'm sat here and I obviously have further questions, but they're not actually questions that I haven't already asked. And I'm not going to waste my time going around in circles, being fobbed off with the same answers. He unfortunately contradicts himself between what he said in the email and what he said in Zoom. He said some incredibly worrying statements on the Zoom call, which I've already discussed this evening. And for the Director of Communications and Public Affairs, I don't necessarily think he's doing a great job at the moment of communicating. But, I do have to say, I did do a bit of research about Christopher before I went on the Zoom call with him. A lot of people do seem to sing his praises, and, maybe I'll end this all on a positive for Christopher, which is, he is obviously very, very passionate to give the time, to spend the time talking to me, to trying to, reduce my concerns or answer my concerns and answer my questions. Like, he obviously has to be, to be willing to open up the conversation. I have a lot of respect for him. And again, I would like to stress that I don't deny that Christopher personally has done a lot to try and protect things like the 50 cal. the 50 caliber, and I don't doubt that BASC do overall some very, very good things for particular areas of our sport. I just think on these particular things, you know, the announcement of the lead ban, the removal of the expenses insurance, they certainly haven't covered themselves in glory and are unfortunately causing more questions to be asked without communicating and answering those questions. But yeah, again, I want to make it absolutely clear. I don't hate BASC. I don't get any kick of you know, slagging them off, and again, this is why I didn't include certain areas, certain, you know, previous interactions with BASC from a couple of years ago. I'm not here to smear BASC. I'm here as a previous member and a concerned shooter about the largest shooting organisation just doesn't seem to be covering themselves in glory. That's not saying that they do, you know, everything they do is bad. It's not to say that, you know, they're not worthwhile supporting. I just think that people should really consider if BASC are truly representing their interests as a member. Yeah, Rack, you've missed a good one tonight. Thanks for joining, Neil. But yeah, let's see what you guys have been saying. The one Sass, always loved the YouTube channel. Second time I've been here in live stream, and as always, good information. Thanks. Need to go elsewhere. People chat soon. Well, thank you very much for dropping by. I got BASC so it would look good on my FAC. Yeah, again, this is something that I've always advocated. I've always said, being a BASC member, you know, funnily enough, whilst I've cut the current card, or it's not current because it's, well, I'm not a member anymore. I do have my last year's card as well. So this card used to, and in some ways probably still is, very, very powerful when you have your interview, right? And the reason that I have always advocated BASC is because if you put that on the table and show the FEO instantly knows that not only do you have arguably the best firearms team in the country behind you that you can call at any point and get advice from, and you know, get support from, but you also have legal expenses insurance. You know, putting that on the table and showing your FEO basically says to them, don't fuck me about, because I can go and talk to people that know this stuff inside and out, and they will tell me if you're messing me around. And not only that, if you choose to really mess me around and refuse or revoke, I have legal expenses insurance. I will not hesitate to take you to court, right? And unfortunately, by removing the legal expenses insurance, whilst BASC say that they will, obviously, what was it? They will defend issues of principle. They have not made it clear to their membership whether, you know, what sort of, you know, financial support they will receive if they will receive it at all, if they end up in difficulties with a revocation or refusal. So for me, the value of that card with your FEO has diminished significantly, because the FEO now knows that you show them that card, there's no backbone to it. There's no, I'm going to take you to court, because it costs thousands to do that, and not everyone has the sort of money to take it to court. And they now know that you show them that card, right? You may have some pretty good people, some pretty expert people to support you, but when it actually comes to the crux of it, when it actually comes to launching a legal challenge or launching an appeal, you're going to have to fight it yourself. You're going to have to fund it yourself, and they're going to know that from now on. Anyway, but yeah, it's an old card. Don't worry about it. Meaningless. Already cut up the most recent one, but it's meaningless because I'm not a member. But yeah, again, sorry guys. It's not been necessarily the most back and forth live stream I've ever done. I want all of that to be out there. I just want people to be aware what's going on and all that. So I hope that you found it not necessarily interesting, but maybe you have, but at the least informative about what's going on at the moment. And again, the big news aside from this is potentially the offensive weapons build 2.0. As soon as I know more, as soon as I hear more about it, I will of course let you guys know, keep you updated with that. But I do think I'm probably going to leave it there. I do like to keep these streams down to sort of an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I do have a home to get home to. So I'm probably going to call it there. But yeah, thanks guys. Before you all go, if you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up button, because it does again still make a huge difference to the analytics. But yeah, thank you for joining me this evening on tonight's stream. Not exactly the most fun out there, as I've said, but I hope you've enjoyed it nonetheless, and appreciate the support. I know we've had a number of donations this evening, which I'm very, very grateful for. It does help support the channel and grow it, improve the quality of the equipment. So Daniel Smerald, 2 hours later, SpongeBob meme. Yes, that's it, isn't it? I mean, I'm sorry if it's just been a bit of a ranty one for you this evening, but again, I think it's a really, really important topic. But there, so yeah, I'm gonna call it there, guys, because yeah, I've sort of run out of steam, I guess. So again, thank you for everyone for joining. I really can't stress that enough. I do appreciate, you're taking 2 hours out of your evening to just sort of sit here and, well, this evening be talked at. But hopefully next week will be a bit more back and forth, and any questions that you maybe haven't had the chance to, well, I haven't had the chance to answer this evening, I'll have the chance next week. But yeah, Mum, I'll see you in 20 minutes. Depending on, how quickly I want to go home. But yeah, or how quickly I make my way home. Let's just say. But yeah, I really do appreciate the support, and thanks guys for sticking with me. Of course, more videos going to be out soon, so keep an eye out on the channel. If you're watching this and you don't know what English shooting is, please subscribe. You'll learn very quickly what we get up to and what we do. Maybe even next week we will have Connors and Alex back as well, so we'll see about that. But I don't think you guys seem to mind too much it being just me this evening. But I'll keep you guys updated on the BASC situation, on the consultation situation, and any new developments. Reckon Load, let's do a Zoom next week. Oh, that could be interesting. Maybe do that. Maybe like, Sod Connors and Alex, we'll get Neil from Rack and Load on, shall we? I'll drop you a message. We'll try and sort something out. Now that I've experienced Zoom, my call with Christopher was the first time I'd used Zoom, actually. So maybe that can be the second with Neil. But again, guys, really appreciate it. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hit the thumbs up button before you leave. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're leaving the stream now, go and check some of the latest videos if you haven't already. But as always, hope to see you soon.